Good morning. Good morning. Morning, Charlotte. Matt, morning. Morning, Brian, Francesca, Jackie, good morning. Dee, Olivia, good morning. Can you hear me good? Fantastic. Thank you. Who's that? Taylor, thank you very much. Carla, good morning. Georgia. Claire, good morning. Abby, it's a lot of names. I'm going to miss a few. Shannon, good morning. I'm just going to leave it for a minute or so and let a few more people log in. I think we have, we do know how many is registered for this, so let's just give it a little bit of time. Morning, Emma. Liana, good morning. Helen, good morning. Excellent. So, Andy, good morning. Janice is on. Fantastic. So, Nicole, good morning. Vicky. I am doing good, Matt. Thank you very much. I've had a great morning. We already had a Passion for Hair webinar this morning, a team meeting. So that was good and positive thing to see everyone and see how everyone is doing. So that's fantastic. Morning, Dennis. So I had a really good start to the morning, and I got my my daily dose of Donald Trump when I wake up. It's always funny, so it makes me laugh first thing in the morning. That's really, really good. So let's go through some housekeeping rules. For those of you, I think most of you have probably been on one or two of the webinars we've been doing so far, and for that we're much grateful for. So you see the bottom right, you will have a speech bubble and a question mark. If you just want to make a comment as you're doing now, do that in the speech bubble. Question mark for any questions as we go through the presentation today, and we'll do all the questions at the end. So any questions, you use the question mark, please. And if for any reason the presentation, the webinar stops, try to refresh it on your computer. If it bump you off, again, just refresh it and you should be able to get back in. If there's any other problems, I'm sure Declan, as usual, will be able to help us navigate those challenges. So, well, good morning and thank you, and really excited to be on the webinar myself. Normally I'm on the back and trying to get everyone in, out, or whatever happens. So today we're going to take the opportunity to speak about Simonsen. We've covered a lot of topics with the various Passion Fair presenters, and we haven't really done a brand specific one. Maybe Nicole was one with 8 steps. So today we're going to go through Simonsen, talk about the technology, look at the opportunities, and we will have some call to action that you can take the opportunity of. We're going to put that at the end, because what we have learned is once you do that in the presentation, it might bump you off. So I am going to get, that's right, today Debbie is in the back support room. She's in the green room helping us out. Thank you very much. So I'm going to get started straight away, realizing that I want to honor your time. I'm sure you're super busy today. I've got tons of stuff planned as normal. So let's go through Simonsen, and I want to start with the hair equipment market, so the electrical tool market. Got some information and some numbers for you, and the Allied Market Research showed that in 2018 the total worldwide market was worth 591.2 billion, which is a big number. The estimated value for 2026 is over 800 billion, as you can see. Now, important to note that, of course, these numbers were pre-situation we're in at this moment in time. So that might, of course, change slightly. The most important part I want to show you here, though, is that 40% of the sales is coming from a professional outlet, which is hairdressing salons. So even if the big estimation there for 2026 will come across a little speed bump, because what we're currently going through, I think it's really encouraging and really important number to see that 40% of electrical tools in hairdressing are sold through the professional channels. I think that is super encouraging. And the question to ask yourself as a stylist and as a salon, what are your sales like? Are your sales in proportion similar to this number or not? Are you a stylist? What portion of your retail sales are electrical tools versus, you know, the shampoo and styling products? So let's move on from that and look at the trends and drivers. So this is Goldstein market research. And I should say this is not all about the numbers and the research, but I really wanted to set the scene so we understand what we're dealing with and get a bit of context as we go through the opportunities and the options that we have once the salons are back open. Debbie, of course, is doing tons of research next week. It's a really good one next Wednesday. But let's look at the trends and drivers. So lightweight and portable. I think we noticed this, not just with H.A. Simonsen. Those kind of tools are really popular at this moment in time. Evolving trends. I don't need to tell you guys are hairdressers, but the hairstyles today, even for an individual, is, you know, anything goes, and one person will change their style from Monday in the office to Friday going out with the friends. So the evolving trends also is of course, the need for tools to keep up with that is really important. A third one I think is super exciting. I am going to talk about the nourishing styler later on, but pro-keratin technology. So pro-keratin technology in tools, in other words, being able to infuse keratin to keep strength and health. And protective tools. Protective tools really means this, that in the past, quite a lot of electrical tools such as straighteners used to be damaging rather than protective and healthy. And we see a big move towards tools coming with new technology, being able to look after, style the hair and still maintain health and strength, etc. Sustainable and value. Sustainability, when we talk about electrical tools, is not just you know, like with hair care products, we talk often about where, you know, what sort of plant extracts and all that sort of stuff, how is it manufactured. We talk about the sustainability in how long is that tool going to last you when you purchase it. Are you going to have to repurchase a tool every 18 months, or will you buy and invest in a good solid tool that's going to last you for a long time? So really looking at value for money. And when I say value, I don't mean necessarily the cheapest. I mean value for money. You invest in a tool or two, of course, and that tool as a stylist, but also as a client, will that tool last you for a long period of time? And for those of you guys who already use Simonsen, you know that some of the information I'm going to share with you shortly, it's going to be really interesting looking at that. So all that being said, let's look at the lipstick effect. We are in some crazy times. I don't really want to talk about it too much at all. But the lipstick effect, for those of you guys who never heard of it, is the theory that in economic hardship, when it's an economic crisis of some kind, which we are very likely to be in if we're not already in it, is that people still purchase luxury goods, smaller luxury goods. And it really stems from the World War II, when money wasn't around, but people were still buying lipsticks, an expensive lipstick. So they stayed away from the bigger luxury goods, but they bought lipstick. So the lipstick effect theory really applies these days to any cosmetics, which we fall under. And this is actually a Klein report. I realized I forgot to put that reference there. But the lipstick effect performed really well in the last two previous recessions, which was 91 and 08-09. And that's also really encouraging, because it goes to show that, I know this morning has been a lot of sharing about the importance of hairdressers, etc., and I couldn't agree more. But I think it's really encouraging to know that when the lipstick effect has rung through in the past, and the likelihood it will do so again, because historically that's where we're at, we can come back to our work with confidence that people still will spend some money on luxury items. So that's a little bit of background, context, set the scene for what we're going to do now. So the plan today is I'm going to go over the overall technology. I am not going to individually discuss every single tool and the heat, etc. I want to cover the company and the tools, and grab any questions that you might have after. So let's move on. Simonsen is 20 years this year, which is fantastic. We founded in 2003, and it's co-founded by 3 hairdressers. And a lot of you guys that was with us last year when we launched this in 2019 would have met Lisbeth and Klaus. They came to the launch. They discussed the tools, shared all their values, etc. And what's really important for us at Passion for Hair, you know, I think we're 9 years old this year. I'm not sure, but I'm sure Debbie can make a comment if I'm correct with 9 years. And we are now in a position in the last probably 3 or so years where we get offered a lot of products on a monthly basis. We get emails, phone calls where companies want to offer their products for us as a company to introduce to the UK market. And that's a really nice position to be in. It hasn't always been like that. It really hasn't. But the reason I'm telling you this, that the number one, we have a shopping list, if you like. We have a tick list that companies has to tick the box in order for us to be aligned with them. And one of those that is very much at the top, it has to be an independent company. For us to stay true and grounded to the values we have as a company when we go to salons or indeed sit at a webinar talking about a product line, we need to know that the values we have are the same as the manufacturers, so we can speak to you guys in salons and just overall stay true to those foundations. So I think it's really, really important. And it's not that many brands, whether it's wetline or electrical tools, they're still owned by hairdressers. So it's still privately owned and operated. They have actually added a 4th person. So there's 4 people in the company at this moment in time. And they have a deep collaboration with the University of Southern Denmark and their engineering department. So a lot of the technologies that we see is not exclusively from that university, but they do use them an awful lot and work on future things. So the compact hairdryer, which we're going to talk about later on, it was very much made in collaboration with that university. Let's see what's happening here. So let's look at quality. For those of you who met Klaus, might remember that he is a really interesting character. I really like the guy. He's super nice. He's a tremendous hairdresser, I should say, and still active as a hairdresser. This very week, as you all know by now, I think, that Denmark has opened their salons. His wife is a hairdresser. She's not part of Simonsen, but she carries Simonsen, of course. He's working in that salon this week to help with the flow of people. One of the things that is really, really strong with Klaus and everyone at Simonsen is quality come first. The reason they started the company in the first place was they were really questioning the idea that how come the electrical tools in our industry, this is their opinion, either look really good but don't last very long, or they last quite long but it don't look very good. They were simply asking the question, why can't a tool be good looking and sexy and still last for a long time? So really be able to carry the workload. So that was the birth idea of Simonsen. So quality, what does that mean in terms of the electrical tools? Well, one of the biggest challenges we have when it comes to tools is the lack of durability. They don't last that long, certainly not for professional hairdressers. And I don't want to mention any brands just in case. I do know we're recording this and I don't want to have any challenges when this is done, but I think we all know of brands where when hairdressers are using them in particular, they don't necessarily last that long. So the quality, let's talk quality. So I do have some tools on the side here to be able to showcase a couple of things that Simonsen has done that's very, very different from your traditional tools, whether a professional or not, is that number one, they've done the cord 3 meters long. So it's a much longer cord, so it's easier to work whether you're home or indeed in the salon. They've also done the copper wiring inside the cord much thicker, because one of the most common reasons for tools breaking down is the handling of the cord. So the wire, if you like, is not looked after and cared for. So they've done it much thicker. And part of the testing process when they do these in the factories is rather insane, but it's really interesting. They do a stretch tests on the cord. They literally line it up in a machine and they pull it 100,000 times. They use very much the same machine, but in a different way, and they twist the cord 150,000 times. And then they go into a third test where they literally just pull the cord in all ways that you can 200,000 times. So the stress test on the cord alone is completely out there and truly magnificent. The other thing that they do to test the inside of the tool, so inside of all of these tools in terms of turning the electric on and off and getting the temperature, we have what can best be described as a mini computer. The mini computer is probably the second reason why most tools break, purely and simply because of dropping it, water, putting things on top of it is a rather fragile part of any electrical tool. So what Simonsen do to test that, to stress test it, is they take tools from each batch once it's been created. They unhook, if you like, switch off, I should say. They switch off this safety feature and they plug them in and they run them for up to 4 weeks. Literally just plug them in, turn them on, turn the heat up, and they run it for 4 weeks just to see what stress it can take by constantly staying on. So they really put an awful lot of effort in the creation of the technology and make sure that the quality and sustainability of the tool, i.e. lasting for a long time, is there first before they decide how the tool is going to look in terms of finish, in terms of black, gold, or whatever it might be. So quality is really important when it comes to all of these Simonsen tools. So let's look at the technology. We use heat zone technology. What does that mean? It means if we take this, I think this is VS12, yes it is. So if you look at the barrel of a styling rod, we have heat zones. In this particular one is 3 or 4, depending on the size of the barrel or the plates. The heat zones have little tiny temperature gauges. So it literally beeps like a radar to ensure that whatever temperature you have decided for the tool will constantly stay at that particular temperature throughout the whole barrel or plate, depending on the tool that you're using. So the heat zone technology applies for all the styling rods and for all the hair straighteners. Infrared technology. Infrared technology is something we have in the hair dryers as well as the irons. So infrared, how it works is, I think the best analogy I can give you, if you ever sat under an infrared light in a bar, I know that was a long time ago, but let's say you were sitting in a bar or sitting on your patio and you have those infrared, you can see the light illuminate sort of slightly red, but you don't see a red beam coming onto your skin, but nevertheless you can feel the heat. So if you imagine inside the hair we have water and hydrogen, and those molecules are positive. What the technology of infrared does, it creates negative ions to balance that out and break them down into smaller pieces. So infrared technology, what that really does is to help dry the hair from the inside out versus outside in. So from a health benefit for the hair is so much better. So infrared technology exists in the irons. So you get the infrared negative ions, but you also get the contact of the plate for the hair. So it's a quicker way and a healthier way to do things even to dry the hair. And then we have the ionic technology, which predominantly lives in our hairdryer. And ions work very much the same as infrared. So you have the negativity of the ions, so negative ions, which will produce very much the same effect as the infrared technology by breaking up hydrogen and water. Smaller molecules means they evaporate much quicker and therefore dry much faster. So you have the speed of drying and you have the health of drying by drying the hair from the inside out and not just outside and in. So the important part to remember here when it comes to Simonsen is when you look at a hairdryer like this, depending on where you put the ionic technology depends on how effective it will be. In this case, we have the ionic technology right at the front of the hairdryer. Can't really see it because of camera angles, but it's sitting very much at the front of the hairdryer, meaning that they don't lose the effectiveness and the efficiency when as you put the hairdryer on. So ionic technology and the infrared technology are much the same and in terms of effect on the hair, but it works on different tools depending on the tools that we use. Then we have tourmaline. So all of our barrels are double barrel titanium, double titanium layers. And we use tourmaline in here. And for those of you guys who haven't heard about what tourmaline is, I think we heard a word before, but it's one of those things that's banded about a bit like sulfates, in my opinion. Tourmaline is essentially a gem, so a mineral, if you like. And again, it has all to do with negative ions. Tourmaline helps to produce negative ions, so you get the very much the same effect as the infrared and ionic. It's all about drying the hair faster and healthier from the inside versus coming outside and in. So let's look at this. We have, let me see which tool to pick. So we have the intelligent sensors, which I mentioned in the heat zone technology. Works like little tiny radars, making sure that wherever temperature you have set on the tool is always going to be there. So go flash, 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 and ensure the same temperature. We have the rapid heating. So all of our tools will be heated up in about 5 seconds. Even if you go to the highest level, which would be 230, depending on the tool. So it's a super, super quick and even heat on all of the tools. And we have, of course, the memory function, which I want to show you, which I think is super cool. So most of our irons and rods have this mirror, which is the mirror that we choose to use the temperature. And it has an M on it, which stands for memory. And the memory technology visually has for fine, medium, and thick hair. So rather than pressing the button or sliding the button to the temperature that you want, if the client or your own hair is fine, medium, or thick, you literally click the memory button to get the desired heat that you want. Which is super cool. It makes you feel like you're holding an iPhone, in my humble opinion. I mentioned we had the titanium plates. What does that mean? It really means this: it's lightweight, it's durable, and it produces a super even heat when it comes to. Is that hot? Oh, it's not hot. I thought it was hot, but it's not. It's super light, so it helps with the light and the weight of the tool. It helps with easing out the heat. And the last thing I want to mention on in terms of the tools and the packaging is the boxes. What Simonsen did for 2020, well, sort of started end of 2019. In terms of creating electrical tools, we have to use plastic, we have to use copper, we have to use various things. That is very hard to go out and say we are sustainable in terms of manufacturing, etc. The following really strenuous manufacturing processes. But nevertheless, it's still an electrical tool that we hold in our hands. But one of the things that they can make a tremendous difference on is the packaging. So the packaging went through a really interesting transformation. They've taken out any form of foil or any form of metal that is very difficult to recycle. They've taken away any form of magnets on the box. You might have remembered the beginning of last year, we had a few boxes where it had those really tiny magnets that made the box close a little bit easier. So at this moment in time, all of those things have changed, and they've also gone away from, very similar to what Sensors did with the new taboo, the colors, they're really cautious of the colors they're using, so they can use less colors versus using a lot of colors. So the boxes, as you know, are predominantly black for that reason. But they haven't gone crazy in all the colors, etc., which they at one point in time had. So all the boxes have taken that new sort of projection, if you like, just to maintain a more sustainable ethos that they have. So let's look at the stylers. We have 4 stylers or straighteners. Simonsen, being Danish, call it stylers. We have the Infinity and Infinity Pro, True Divinity, and the Pocket Straightener. So 4 in total. What's really important here to remember is they all cover the same technology. They vary in size and in the look that they have. Infinity and Infinity Pro are identical, with one slight difference, which is Infinity Pro is a wider one. So this would be the Infinity Pro. So it's a 2-inch plate versus the 1.2, I think it is, on the Infinity, or is it even a 1-inch plate? Other than that, and they also have the mirror glass and the touch technology in terms of turning up the heat, turning it on, etc. Then we have True Divinity, which is the tool that most people would what's the word I'm looking for? They always correlate this with another brand, and I've been told I'm not allowed to swear on these webinars, so I'm not going to mention that brand. But it looks like this. So this is the tool. That is the difference between this and the Infinity one is that all of the heating is done on the inside. They don't have the touch technology on the outside of the iron. So that one is a nice. Where's the camera? And pure. And then we have the Pocket Straightener. And, I want to tell you a couple of interesting things during this lock time period that you saw in the beginning there. We talked about light portable tools has been really popular in terms of trends worldwide. And during this lockdown, we've had an increase in some of our pocket straighteners and MIDI wavers, etc. And I think it's really interesting when we look at the popularity of the Simonsen tools and the trends that we are reading and looking at and all the research. We are very much following in those things. All of those tools that the research says should be popular are very popular. So the best-selling tools at this moment in time during lockdown has been our smaller tools. We're going to go through the MIDI wavers. The compact hairdryer because it's light, and the nourishing styler, of course, which is keratin technology. So let's move on. So that's the stylus. Again, if there's any questions, we will take them right at the end. So let's look at the nourishing styler. This is the newest edition. We got this just in time for Pro Hair Live earlier this year, which seems such a long time ago. The Nourishing Styler is a fantastic tool. It has a tank at the very top of it. I don't actually have the Nourishing Styler with me here, hence the PowerPoint. But we have a tank at the top where you will fill in with the keratin fuel you can see on the picture. And you will set the setting from no keratin fuel, meaning it's just an iron, or a small amount or a large amount in terms of how much it infuses into the hair. So at the very top of the iron, it has a little cut, which is the what I'm looking for. It's the way the keratin comes out. So you in other words, you are choosing if you want to use it just as an iron, or if you want to infuse keratin, and you can set the temperature, etc. And the results, I can see some people are making some comments in terms of how they work. It's truly stunning how the immediate effect of the hair once you run the Nourishing Styler through. So beginning of the year, we launched it Pro Hair Live. It's been tremendously popular. And even during lockdown, it's been one of the highest selling tools. And it makes sense to me. One, it is a trend, lockdown or not. Number two, it makes sense that people want to look after their hair when they're at home. So it's a tremendous tool. And if you haven't tried it, I, of course, encourage you to have a look at it. Then we have the MIDI range. The MIDI range is a smaller tool. So we have VS6, we have MIDI Styler, and we have VS5. So VS6 is a crimper. So it's a small portable crimper. VS5, we will see the styler is the sort of wavy that has like a 2-finger creating a wave, and we have the midi styler. So we have essentially 3 straighteners in terms of size. We have midi, we have pocket, which is the smallest, and we have the standard, which is divinity and infinity. Styling rods. Right, this is I'm trying to move that, we can't do that. The styling rods was really interesting. When we first got in contact with H.A. Simonsen, I'm going to call it about 2 years ago, I got super excited. I loved Klaus. I thought he was a right character. I loved what he had to say about the tools. And I know I'm permitted to say that Debbie wasn't too impressed. Not so much she wasn't impressed with the company, just impressed with the fact that I suggested we look into an electrical tools. Her previous life had given her some bad experiences with some tool companies that were not great quality, I guess is the best way I'm gonna and the most polite way to say it. Anyway, after many ifs and buts, Debbie did agree. And one of the things that is really important for you salon owners out there is, one of the reasons we took these on board is, yes, they're independent, the tools are amazing, but we also really fought to have 40% GP on all of the products, which is super important. And that was really the final thing for Debbie when we were negotiating, if you like, with Simonsen. If we can get 40% GP for salons, then we will take it on board. Which leads me to the styling rods. When I initially placed the first order with them to get the first shipment into the Passion for Hair warehouse, I completely underestimated the power of the styling rods. Or should I say, I underestimated the need and the marketplace in terms of wanting and needing these kind of tools. So we sort of had a secret, kind of, not secret so much, I wouldn't be sharing it if it was, but we sort of had a goal that if we in the first year with Simonsen could place 2 shipments with them, we would be doing well. The market, the salons, the hairdressers would respond well to the brand, and 2 shipments would be you know, a good level of investment, if you like. I think by June, we started these in January. I think by June, we already placed 5. And one of the main drivers for that was the styling rods. I thought it was going to be all about the hair dryers and the straighteners. Just goes to show how naive I was. But the styling rods truly has been, they've just been tremendous. And I think anyone out there that's currently using them probably know what I'm talking about. So let me just go to the next slide. And you can see them here, but let's just go through. You have all in all, we have 11 of them. The last one is VS12. There is no VS, which one is it we're missing? It's one number we're missing, like it doesn't exist. So it's not that we're missing it, it's just that we don't have it. I can't remember what it was, but we have everything from VS1, which goes to a really thin barrel, and you can see how they all vary. And we have 3 of them, VS9, VS5, and VS6. VS6 is the crimpers. VS5 is the one that exists in a smaller version, and you have VS9, which I think I saw Abby, did you use that today? I think I saw something on social media. This is the visual I want to show you, which I really like. Really just shows you the type of curl, the shape that you are going to get from each and every tool, and you get a good look at what they're looking like as well. So looking at that, the latest one in this family is the VS12. So it has quite a thin, sort of oval-shaped barrel. What they all have is a cool tip at the top, so you can hold it at the top, even if you turn it on. You can use... Oh my gosh, I can't get the camera angles right here. All of them have the touch slide technology, so you would slide your finger to turn them off and on. So you slide up to get the temperature up, and you slide them down like that, and then you turn them off. Excuse me, let's get some water. Right, there we are. So that's the styling rod family. Let's move on to the hair dryers. We have 2 hair dryers. We have the Boss dryer, and the newest member of the family is the compact dryer. The Boss dryer would be your your stand. I wouldn't say it's a heavyweight one, but of course I only held so many hair dryers in my life. Surprised you might be of that. The Boss hair dryer is sort of a more sturdy one. Some people are telling me that is far better for a hairdresser maybe, or maybe it's optional depending on what you want. What I can tell you is this, the sales of these two is really good. It's really difficult to tell you which one is selling more than the other than they're both selling really, really well. During the lockdown, the compact dryer has been far more popular. And yes, they'll be saying, what about the drop test? I was going to get to that on this part, but thank you for the heads up. I appreciate that. So that's the two dryers we have. I think it's super simple. They look really good. And going back to the quality, Debbie just reminded me of the drop tests. The drop test is funny. So gone through how we test the cord. And in order to test the hair dryers, they have something which is a drop test, but they really call it the hairdresser test, where they drop the tool from 1 meter up to 1.5 meters, just to see how often and how the tool will act and behave in terms of dropping it. Because what Klaus, Lisbeth, and the rest of the gang believe is hairdressers drop a lot of tools, and most likely so our clients. And if you haven't seen us do this particular presentation, and you might remember that Klaus did that himself, literally you're standing there talking about the hair dryers, and we dropped them in the floor just to showcase that, hey, look, it dropped, but it still works. So, and really all that demonstrates that the components, all of the components that's inside each and every one of these tools is really well made. And I think all of us probably, just by holding something, when you hold something, it's different holding an iPhone versus even an old version of an iPhone or another kind of phone. That feeling when you're holding quality and when you're holding something that is just good, nice, and sturdy, that's the feeling you get when you hold the Simonsen tool. You can feel the quality. There is a lot of good craftsmanship going in there, and yeah, so that's the drop test, and it is the most fun to do with the hair dryers. You can see that the technology between the two is very similar. Is of course in terms of weight, etc. And the compact dryer is a very powerful hair dryer. And if you are someone that is in the market for a lightweight hair dryer, I think Andy used his on the last webinar he did. It's certainly worth looking at that one. Compact hair dryer. And then the diffusers. We have 3 diffusers. We have 1 diffuser for the Boss hair dryer, we have 1 for the compact, and we have a universal diffuser as well. So the universal would fit the Boss dryer and most of other brands. I can't tell you all because I haven't tried it on all, but it would be working on most other brands. The compact diffuser is strictly for the compact diffuser. Well, it's really cool. And I have to tell you, I didn't think you could be excited by a diffuser, but I got quite excited when I noticed this. So when you look at the diffuser, you can swivel it, which means that you're either opening or closing the bottom of the diffuser. So what that really means is you can control the airflow when you're using it. You can make it coming from these nozzles and from the bottom, or you can close it and make sure that it only comes through the nozzles. So that depending on the health of the hair, you can ensure that when the hair is sitting in the diffuser, the bottom is not blowing any air, it's only blowing from the nozzles, making sure that you're not overdoing it if the hair, maybe the ends are not in the best condition and you should stay away from direct heat. You can turn the bottom part off and only use the nozzles and distribute the air a little bit easier and dry it that way, which I thought was super exciting. If that exists on other diffusers, I'm not sure, but I thought that was amazing technology for a simple thing as a diffuser. So let's look at brushes. We have 3 predominant brushes that are used by salons and by retail. So I just want to share them with you so you understand what everything is. So we have the Wonder Brush with the airbrush, and we have the gloss brush. So what's the difference? The Wonder Brush would be the most similar to wet brush. In fact, it's pretty much identical when it comes to what it looks like. It's a couple of differences, and I will tell you how this came about, why it is. So it has a nicer shape. You know, it looks a little bit more sexy. It feels a little bit better as well when you hold it in the hand. You know, it's just designed in a much better way. But in terms of the bristles, size, and the pad, is the same. And here's the story why that is. You're probably wondering why that is, and you probably know that we used to do the wet brush. So when wet brush when wet brush decided to launch into Europe, Simonsen has a really good presence already today, and at that moment in time in the Scandinavian countries, Germany, Italy, Simonsen is very big. And for wet brush to get traction in the market, they co-branded a brush. So they made the wet brush, and they had Simonsen on the wet brush. Simonsen and wet brush, sorry. Got into the market, everything was fine. So for a long period of time, Simonsen was in short distributor of the wet brush. That relationship is no longer, and they simply created their own brush. So they renamed it, made it slightly different in terms of the design, how it looks, how it feels. The finish is a little bit different. For those of you that had the opportunity to have one of these will know that they feel and look a little bit different in terms of holding them. But they did something else that I think is super important. Apart from improving the looks of them, they made it so much more simple. The Wonder Brush exists in 3 colors: black, gray, and pink. That's it. That's your core line: black, gray, and pink. Rather than 55 different patterns on the same brush, which was great for a period of time. But we'll be quite honest with you, it became difficult, boring, and it's just not you know, it's just not on, it's not focused, is what it is. So Wonder Brush exists in black, pink, and gray. What they then do is they release limited editions twice a year, which I will share with you as we go along. Then you have the so that's a detangle brush. The airbrush would be very similar to something that was previously called the vent brush. That is a brush that you can blow dry with. Wonder Brush is not a blow drying tool. It is strictly a detangler. Airbrush will detangle, and you can use it blow drying. The gloss brush looks the same as Wonder Brush, but it has boar bristles. So it'll be a detangler, and you get some more shine onto the hair. So the gloss brush has boar bristles, which the Wonder Brush hasn't, and that's the difference. Let's move on. Oh, I should say the airbrush only comes in black. The core line, the airbrush only comes in black. That's your packaging. Again, I think they've done a great job with packaging. Now, this is the limited edition one, but you can see it live. They just done the packaging better, sturdier, quality. Looks so much better on the shelves. Then we have the turn brush. Now, the turn brush is truly an amazing brush, which is funny coming from, wrong one, coming from a non-hairdresser. But let's have a look at the turn brush. So the turn brush is hand-turned wood. The turn brush has boar bristles as well as regular bristles. It comes in 4 sizes, and the barrel is really special. So we use Teflon, and they use aluminium in the barrel, but they use heat technology. And I want to show you that. Oh, that's the turn brush flex. I don't even know my own presentation. Look at that. So you have the turn brush, boar bristles, and let me just go back one step. So we have 4 sizes, and it has boar bristles on it. The turn brush flex is only 2 sizes, and only the difference here is there is no boar bristles. So for anyone who has used the turn brush and thinking, well, I wish they did that without the boar bristles, they do. It's called a flex brush. All other things are identical. It's hand-turned wood. It's beautiful to hold. Again, I think the quality and the feel of these tools are probably what is the most obvious when you pick them up and look, feel them. They look great, but they feel just as great when you hold them. So what is really interesting with these, for those guys who have used them will know that we have heat intelligent technology on them. What that means is this: the barrel, as you blow dry, will go pink towards red. So it maintains the heat and evenly distributed as you blow drying the hair. It's super cool, and it heats up really, really quickly. So if you would turn the hairdryer on, which doesn't work very well on this particular webinar, but it would heat the barrel up and it would change the color. So visually, you get that, you can visually see how it's heated. It's keeping the heat from blow dryer, and you're running it through the hair. Super cool technology and super effective. What does that mean? It just means that we spread the heat a little bit more evenly, a little bit more faster, and again, it's another aid in helping to speed up dry time. So let's look at the accessories of Simonsen. We've got clips, we've got gloves, and we've got some hair cuddles. And I thought I would take this opportunity to literally run through everything that is available for us here in the UK, because quite often we have so many questions. Do you have this? Do you have that? And as you might know, when it comes to distribution, sometimes certain things are launched in one place before another, etc. So today I thought was a great opportunity just to talk you through everything that is available as a core line from Simonsen. So we've got the carbon clips, we've got knit gloves, and we've got the hair cuddles. And I have a feeling the gloves might be popular coming out of this lockdown. Let's see what happens. Limited editions. So everything that we have covered so far is standard core line, meaning is available all year round unless they make some dramatic change in taking something out, etc., in terms of discontinuing products. But we do limited edition twice a year. So we do one for, if you like, people call it the Christmas version, which is fine, but it's really the autumn winter collection, which when we came into end of 2019, if you remember, we had the glittery ones. The True Divinity came in ruby, sapphire, and black onyx, and it had that sort of glittery finish. I have one of those here, which is the purple one. So they were coming in nice looking, and I don't think glitter ever is going to go out of fashion, so that was handy. And at this moment in time, we're in spring, summer, so we've done the sorbet collection, and that's the green one I've been teasing you with so far. So core line for H.A. Simonsen stays. It's a black range, if you like. All the tools are classic black, and twice a year they're coming out with the special editions. Same goes for the brushes. Black, grey, and pink are standard, and limited edition on brushes. So at this moment in time, again, we're spring, summer, so they got the sorbet collection. So the irons come in 3 colors, but the brushes come in 4 colors, and they are literally available as we receive them. How the limited editions and Simonsen work is the following: they get launched for whatever period, so now it's spring, summer, and once they're sold out, they're out. So you have to wait for the next edition and see what that pattern is. So they don't run them all year round, and if you miss out, you miss out, in short. And then we're going to take some questions. I want you to know this. We're doing this for all of you guys that have been on the webinar. We're going to do a 20% off on the tools you can see below. Declan is going to put up a link for you. There is no need to rush on that at this moment in time, because I do believe we have questions to answers. I've seen a few, but I haven't paid that much attention to it. The webinar offer, if you like, will be on the p4hpro.com. Is limited, meaning that if you want it today, you can go on there and you can get the discounted products. If you need to ensure that you have your own tools ready coming out of this lockdown, if you need to upgrade anything, it's going to go down tomorrow. So that's where we are with that. But the guarantee, thank you, Janice, that is the question. So yeah, I'm going to get Declan to put the questions up so I can do them. The guarantee on the tools, thank you so much. It's a 5-year guarantee on all the tools apart from the hairdryers. Now, this is really important. So we do a 5-year guarantee on the tools, includes the professional. However, the tools will be looked at to make sure that care has been maintained. What does that mean? It means that if there's any obvious sign of neglect, I'm going to call it, looking at the plates, looking at the cord, the answer is that guarantee be void. But it's a 5-year guarantee on the tools. And one of the things we see so much of this, not so much with our own tools, but sometimes we do, is the way people look after tools is really fascinating to me. Is if you look at this tool straight from the box, I want you to look how nice and how folded that cord is compared to just roll it up around the tool. You know, when people roll it around the styling tool. And this is really important because if you invest in tools personally or as a salon, you need to look after them. But I want to highlight this little Velcro cord and show you that it's there for a reason. When the tool is in use, this Velcro is there to ensure that you can fold it nicely and cover it up. So thank you, Janice, for the question. I think it's a really good question, and we're super proud to be able to do 5 years. Oh, yeah. Let me just, sorry, Declan, I just want to stay on that question. I want to show, oh, look at that, I've done it in one go. So Declan, can you just go back to the first question? I want to show everyone one more thing in terms of the care of the tool. So all of the tools, whether it's an iron or a rod, comes with these heat bags. Every single one, every order, not just limited edition. And they're really, really good. And I was mentioning to Debbie this morning, the salon I know that looks after their tool in the most organized way, and the care of the tool is tremendous, is Laura Schiavone from Bella Mia in Peterborough. What they do in their salon, which I can't see why it wouldn't work for most salons, is they put every single tool back in its bag, and they created little labels on top of the bag to say what tool that is. And I think I was there at some point just after Christmas at some point doing some training, and I could see the tools line up in the salon inside the bag, rolled up nicely with the Velcro and with a name on the thing. So I just want to give you that heads up that what I think they have done with the tiny little Velcro, which is a super, super simple idea, and with the heat bag, is giving you the opportunity to look after and maintain the tools. Right, second questions.
It's up there.
It's up there. So these diagrams will be great to use in the salon when explaining to clients. Can they passion? Yes, they can. We can put them as a download. Thank you, Debbie. Yes. Next question.
Thank you, Declan.
Debbie, negative ions make the, yes. Okay, so how negative? So let's go through that again. We have hydrogen and water is positive. Negative ions make the hydrogen and water to vibrate, go into smaller molecules, and therefore they disperse faster versus trying to do it on a big molecule. So yes, you speed up the dry time and you ensure that, well, let's face it, you don't have to have the heat on the hair for as long. Yeah. Next question. Can I repeat the difference between infinity and divinity? Yeah, of course I can. So the divinity, which is this particular one, this happens to be the purple sparkly one. The difference is a slight size difference, is slightly shorter. The plate is the same size, and the temperature gauge is on the inside. In terms of all other technology of infrared, the plates, all the same. It's a slightly smaller iron, and the width of it is slightly smaller. And then the Infinity, now this is the Infinity Pro with a 2-inch plate. The Infinity Pro is a longer tool in terms of the tool itself, and the plates are longer as well. And the temperature gauge is on the outside. So it's a touch technology, the same as all of the styling rods. Does that help you, Abby? Was that satisfactory? or not? Okay, yes, I'll take that as a yes. Is there any other questions? Do you charge more than use it when you're using the? Yeah, it's a great question, and yes, that would be my recommendation. That the nourishing styler would be a service option in the salon, and the short answer is yes. If you're going to ask me how much that is, I'm probably not the best person to answer that, purely and simply because I'm not in a salon. But short answer is yes. It is very much a service tool, just as much as I can't see the question.
No, it's people are telling how much they charge.
Oh, right, I can see. Yeah. That's what happens. So I hope that helps you, Stacey. Absolutely, you should do that, and most people do that, and it's a retailing tool as well. I should say this: the initial launch of Nourishing Styler has been great. In the box, you get the styler. You get 2 tanks: the tank that comes on top of the styler, and you get the keratin fluid. Once a client has purchased that tool and they need to repurchase the keratin fuel, they can buy that from you guys individually.
And you can use the tool without the fuel if you want to.
I think I said that.
Okay. So
Debbie has gone from the green room to behind the screen. How exciting. Yes, okay. Do we have any more questions? I was hoping it would be one more question maybe. It's not a question, but it's very much, yes, all your keratin clients need to stay home whilst on lockdown. Absolutely. I should say this. I'm slightly surprised no one has asked it, but I will mention it. Maybe the question is going to come up. The Nourishing Styler is not a straightening system. It really isn't, but it very much complements and supplements that service in the salon. So it's not instead of, well, it could be instead of if you don't want to go through that process, I suppose, but it's not a like-for-like service. But if you have done the straightening, whatever straightening systems you do, we don't do any, so I shall not recommend any, but you can use that in conjunction with, if that makes sense, so to complement that service. But it's not an instead of, in terms of it's not the same effect. This doesn't last as long.
keratin sits in the cuticle layers on the outside of the cortex.
Right. So does the hair keratin stay in the hair for a certain number of washes? Yes, but what those are depends on many things. As you know, it will depend on the integrity of the hair in the first place. So it's very difficult to give you an exact number, whether it's 2, 3, 4, or 5. It will depend on all those variables we often have when it comes to any form of input into the hair. It depends on where the client starts in the first place. What I would say, I mean, really the power of the Nourishing Styler is the fact that you can choose that gauge. So you might start with the hair in quite compromised condition. You have all the right home care because they've gone to you guys, so they know what they're using, but they might use it with high inputs of keratin. They might go into low and then just use it as an iron. So it's a bit of a hair journey, but I can't give you the exact number of washes, I'm afraid.
Like semi-permanent hair colour.
Ah, Debbie is saying, just like semi-permanent hair color.
It's exactly the same.
Exactly the same, yeah.
So it's sitting in the cuticle layers. So for some clients it will be 1 wash, and for some clients it might be 3 or 4.
There you go. Right, is there any, can you blow dry? Can you blow dry with the gloss brush? You can, but it's just like you can probably blow dry with the Wonder brush as well. But the reality is this: the detangled bristles are not made for heat. So can you get away with it? Possibly, but you will ruin the brush. The gloss brush will probably last a little bit longer than the Wonder brush because of the protection of the boar bristles. Is a good question, but that's really the key here, so we understand. And I think that's important for you guys when you work with your clients, that a detangle brush is just that. It's not made for heat. So if they would use their Wonder brush with when they're blow drying the hair, it's not going to break straight away, maybe not even next week, but they are going to, yeah, you know, the heat damage of that brush is just going to deteriorate the brush so much quicker. So one of the things you probably know by now, that clients should probably well, not probably, they should have more brushes more often than what they actually do. I don't know if you ever seen your friends' brushes, like non-hairdresser, maybe even hairdressers, I don't know. But sometimes you look at brushes and they're horrible. They shouldn't go into the hair on anyone because they are using the wrong brush for the wrong thing. They're not cleaning the brush, so you got all gummy, all hair with products, etc. So really important when you talk to your client, in my humble opinion, is they need to maintain the brushes by maintaining them, cleaning them, using the right brush for the right moment. So, you know, detangle out of the shower, blow drying, using a blow drying brush. And they should invest in a new brush every so often. They only last so long with frequent use. And I think that's really, really important. Great question, and I hope that helped you. Will they bring the brushes out in travel sizes? Yeah, I think we can put that to them. And I think you will see some MIDI brushes coming out in some colors at some point. So the short answer is going to put it to them. Maybe. Let's wait and see.
Next question.
Next question. What happens if you buy a tool and they discontinue it and the client has a 5-year warranty? What would happen? Well, yeah, they would get the equivalent tool that is available. So what I think Simonsen has done very, very well. So there's not a like-for-like tool. So they don't have any duplicates, if that makes sense. They have they used to have a signature styler, which is a 2-inch plate, same as the Infinity. So they used to have two similar to this size, but they discontinued one because they were very, very similar. So if that would happen, you would just get the equivalent tool in the family at that moment in time. Yeah. Next question. Is a regular standard 2-year, I think it is the 2-year guarantee on the dryers, both of them. The best way to maintain your tools, cleaning, etc. What a good question. Well, I think number one, in terms of cleaning your tools, when they are, yeah, just do it really regularly. I think what I often see in salons is if you look at an iron, for example, with the camera, you can see product buildup around the plates. Most tools, certainly Simonsen, have movable plates, so it's nice and easy to move around. Sometimes you look at tools and you see the buildup around the plate, and it looks like a bricklayer has been around, and it's super unsexy, super unhealthy, and I think it would be really difficult coming out of the lockdown to get away with that. If they look grubby, why would you put them in the hair? So the answer to your question is you would clean it often, and now is probably the best time to start in terms of let the tool cool down and be able to wipe it down in terms of product buildup. So that's maintenance in terms of cleaning them. But I can't stress enough, the most important part of tools would be to look after the cord. You see, majority of tools break down because of the cord is not maintained. So the copper wiring, as it happens, we have much thicker copper wiring than your average tool, but it's the copper wiring that tends to break. And it used to be this part, but most Simonsen has the swivel, so the cord swivels, so it doesn't break the copper. But you can break the copper at any point. So maintaining the tools in terms of cleanliness, wash them often, clean them often so you don't get that rubber buildup. And number two, just maintain the tool by looking after the cord is super, super important. And the third bit in terms of maintenance, especially with irons, if you don't look after the plates, you will get those little chips in the plates, and that will not be good for health of the hair. As you run it through, it won't glide, it can snag in the hair and so forth. So cord, clean, and make sure that you protect the plates. And the same goes with a rod. And the best way in terms of Simonsen to do that, because you get one for free, is to do with the heat bag. Once the tool is cool, you clean it off, put it back in the heat bag.
You can put it back in the heat bag hot.
Oh yeah, you can put it in the heat bag hot, but predominantly let it cool down, maybe clean it, then put it back in the bag. But it's a heat bag, so you can put it in there warm if you want to. Next question, please. When you say NHS offer, what if a customer works in a private care home? Does this apply to them? They're not NHS.
Which NHS offer is she talking about?
What? I'm not sure we're talking about NHS offer. I'm a bit confused. Did I mention that?
No. What? Ask her to type. Ask Michelle to type what she's referring to.
Yeah, Michelle, if you could
just type which one. Which offer.
Type that again, please, and talk what offer you mean.
And I'll deal with it on the messenger thing. Go on then.
Can you go over the stress test again, please? In how many times you get tested? Yes, I can. And I was actually thinking about this when we started to make sure I get the numbers right, but I'm sure they're right. So the stress test is two things they do, the stress test. So one is on the cord itself. So they do, let's get a different tool in my hand. Right. So stress test is two things. Number one, they test the cord. So they do a straight up pulling test exactly like that. And that's 100,000 times. So it's basically a machine where they can put the cord and the machine just sits there and pulls it 100,000 times. The second thing they do is they twist the cord, and that's 150,000 times. And then the last one that they do at 200,000 times is literally pulling. The machine sort of goes in this weird, I've only seen it on video, I haven't physically been there myself. It just pulls the cord in various directions and twist and turn and pull. So it's sort of like you get the pulling, you get the twisting, and you get the twist pull kind of test. So it's threefold on the cord. And then they do the stress test in terms of on hair dryers, the rods, as well as the irons. They undo the safety mechanism so it doesn't turn off. If I didn't mention it, all of the tools have the safety mechanism where they turn off after either 45 minutes or 90 minutes, depending on the tool that you're using. They turn that off, they plug it in, and they literally leave the tool on for a month, 4 weeks. Just let it sit there, going in, whether it's a blow dryer, a rod, or an iron. So they stress test it by saying, how long will this last? And that's how they stress test it. So cord and the functionality in terms of how long can it operate for.
You see on the screen, people can't see the pattern. Is it possible to get that right near the screen so they can see the pattern?
We want to see the pattern.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the pattern. This is the mint green. I have to say, the mint green has probably been the most popular. I'm not even sure it's got gold speckles on there. Look at that.
That looks speckled eggs.
Yeah, that's a sexy tool. That's a very sexy tool. So, Helen, did that answer your question? And then you do have the drop test as well, which comes from 1 meter to 1.5. And the 1 meter test is called the hairdresser test because majority of our stations and etc. where we put the tools is approximately 1 meter high. Does the nourishing styler affect vivid colors like pink, purples, etc. from Constance? What a good question. I don't think there is any form of negative impact at all when you talk about vivid colors.
It wouldn't be any different with the Nourish styler than it would be with any other.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you think of, just wouldn't be any different negative effects versus any other direct heat, whether it's a styler or a hairdryer. So the answer is no. And if you have anything else to report, please do let me know. Right, the next question, Vicky. Yeah, so does the temperature gauge lock once you have your hand? It absolutely does. Thank you. Good question. And if I wasn't clear on that. So I'm just going to use the VS12 rod. So if you pull it up, it will take about, I don't know, 5 seconds, whatever it is, it starts flashing and then it locks. And if you want to unlock it, you would have to press the button again and then you can change it. So yes, it's about a 5 second sort of gap between you choose your temperature, it will lock, you carry on. So although it's touchpad, you have to press the button to open it, to turn it off. Thank you. Next question. Any more questions? No, there is not many more questions. Oh, fantastic. So let me just say thank you to everyone.
Question. I know there was. Wait a minute. There was a question. Abby asked it. I don't know if people can hear me. Abby asked that she had been told previously that like you shouldn't use more than, I can't remember what she said on that question. Abby had a question where she said she'd been told she shouldn't use more than, what did she say, 180 or something on hair, and 190. Okay, so that might be true on tools that are heating or drying hair from the outside in. But remember, all of the Simonsen tools dry and style from the inside out. So therefore, the heat isn't affecting the hair in the same way. So for an example, if you've got tools that are, you've got a hairdryer that's drying the hair from the outside in, you're going to have to dry the outside of the hair an awful lot to be able to get to the inside of the hair. Okay, does that make sense? So remember, there is the medium, fine, thick gauge. So if you're ever in doubt, you can just press M, F, T, and the iron will choose its own heat setting for what you want to do, or you can choose manually.
Yeah, I think I think the idea now, if we summarize, you know, electrical tools for if we summarize tools now and what they are, we don't need to speak about the where they're sold, etc. I think we all know where we at Passion for Hair stand with how people wear the tools, and any product should reward the salon in the first place, regardless of where they're sold. Let's forget about that aspect. There is tons of choice out there. But it's also tons of choice out there of really, I'm just going to say it's really some really bad tools out there as well. I'm not necessarily talking about the professional sector, just the overall, just like we don't need another shampoo, we probably don't need another straightening iron. What we do need is another shampoo that acts and behaves in a different way, and we need styling tools to act and behave in a different way, not just in philosophy, how they're sold, but also in the technology in terms of moving forward. So, you know, the protection of hair and how tools used to act and behave is not the same way now as it used to be. And I think that's really important for us to understand, so we can have that communication and that dialogue with our clients, because you can probably, you guys see a lot of ugly hair about. I mean, I know we're not out at the moment, but it's an awful lot of ugly hair just generally. Bad color, bad cuts, etc. And quite often you can see when people got bad color and bad cuts, but you can just see ugly hair based on the fact that they don't have the right brush, they don't have the right styling tool. So I think that dialogue is really important, and because we are, you know, as Ryan Estes said earlier in the week, we're future makers. We can come out of this lockdown and be a different version and a better version of ourselves coming back into the salon. So what a great opportunity to know that a lot of people do choose to buy tools from salons. The question is, do you have the right tools, and are you in that positive number of people that are selling these tools and having that dialogue with your clients? So, you know, it is a great opportunity to take this further. And I'm going to share some of the Simonsen graphs and tools. If you want to read more about it, you can do so. Each and every tool have, you know, the specific spec in terms of weight and heat, etc. Really, what we did in the beginning was an overview, but, you know, it's a great opportunity to, you know, take that forward. So unless there's any other questions at this moment in time, I just want to remind you what is happening coming up in the next week. So on Monday we have, is it Bank Holiday Monday, this Monday or next week? No, on Monday we have webinar 11 o'clock. I think it's Richard Tidy coming on.
No, it's Maria.
Is it? Oh, it's Maria. I'm so sorry. It's Maria. So Maria with Malibu is on at 11 o'clock on Monday. great webinar, color correction, and all of those things that we might want to do prior to seeing our clients, or some of the treatments. Census, of course, is on at 2 o'clock, and it's the second day of Euphora Vision Quest, which is 5 p.m.
Yay!
UK time.
So I missed it last week. Get on it. It was so good.
It was a tremendous one, and I think we've been so fortunate to be able to funnel Census and Euphora into the webinars that we do, to hopefully bring value to you guys with a variation of topics and things. So Monday's again a big day, because we got Maria, we got Census, and we got Vision Quest in the evening, and I'm super excited about the speakers at Vision Quest. Tuesday, I think nothing is happening from a webinar point of view. Wednesday, we're back with Debbie. Debbie has a great presentation. Some of the research and some of the numbers, and just what's happening in our industry by the big players, from a manufacturing point of view, etc., is going to be really, really interesting. There's some consumer behaviors in there as well. So Wednesday is pen and paper ready, and get your mindset into that. Then we have Thursday with Jude is a Q&A, or Wednesday Census, of course, the last one, I should say. Q&A with Jude on Thursday, and then on Friday we're back with Richard, and Richard is doing the horseshoe thing. I didn't even know the horseshoe was that exciting, but I'm excited. Tuesday, then it's bank holiday Monday, and then we're back on Tuesday, and we have Nicole is back on that particular day, and she's doing more numbers and target settings with around the 8 steps. So that's really, really good. And Debbie's back on Wednesday, but we update you more near the time. So guys, thank you very much. Don't forget the P4H Pro has a pop-up shop. It's going to go out as of tomorrow at some point, sort of midday-ish. It's up, and it will disappear tomorrow. So it's a limited option if you want to take the opportunity, and we appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day. Bye.